more young people, especially in those areas that I think are underserved, they need to see people that look like them. Young girls need to see women that are in cyber, folks that come from, underserved communities need to see people from their community that look like them. And then it becomes a career that's obtainable to them, that, hey, I could see myself in that career. I could see myself doing something in that discipline because it becomes real.
Welcome to Cyber Chats, a podcast made by the National Cryptologic Foundation. I'm your host, Kennedy Taylor, and together we'll be demystifying the world of cybersecurity by talking with amazing cyber enthusiasts like you, as well as industry professionals. Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Welcome back, cyber friends. Today you're getting something very special. Consider it an early holiday present from me. I'm sharing the full recording of a powerhouse panel I hosted at NCF's Education Summit on Cybersecurity Education, an event dedicated to helping educators bring cybersecurity into every classroom and build real pathways for students to thrive in a digital world. You're not getting all of it yet. I'm sharing just the first half first, but I am so excited for you to listen. Together, we dug into what it takes to expand access, strengthen teaching, and create meaningful partnerships between schools, policymakers, and the private sector, a topic I am very passionate about, all to ensure students from every community can see themselves in the future of tech and in cybersecurity. Whether you're an educator, a school leader, or someone who cares about the next generation of cyber enthusiasts, this conversation is full of practical insights and big picture thinking. Let's jump right in. All right, so first I'm going to introduce Quiana Bannerman. Hi. Can you raise your hands after I say your names, by the way, just so everyone knows? Thank you. Quiana brings 18 years of experience in K-12 and post-secondary education, specializing in expanding equitable access to computer science through teacher training, culturally responsive pedagogy, and early college IT programs. As the current director of the Maryland Center for Computing Education, she leads statewide efforts to strengthen the computer science teacher pipeline and broaden participation in computing from pre-K through 12, particularly in underserved communities. Welcome, Quiana. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, next we have Seeyew Mo. Seeyew is a nationally recognized leader in cyber workforce strategy and the former Assistant National Cyber Director for Workforce, Education, and Economic Advancement, where he led the implementation of the National Cyber Workforce and Education Strategy across over 35 federal agencies, creating thousands of cyber roles. As the current Senior Advisor for Cyber Maryland, he leads high-impact cyber initiatives to strengthen connections between businesses and K-12 and post-secondary programs, helping workers gain experience and skills needed for cyber roles across many fields. Welcome, Seeyew. Thank you for joining. Yes, this adorable daughter. Hi. That's what we're here for. All right, and next we have Siraaj Hasan. Siraaj is a longtime advocate for equitable access to cybersecurity education through mentoring, DEI leadership, and partnerships with underserved schools and communities. He is currently a vice president at Booz Allen Hamilton, where he leads a cybersecurity portfolio supporting workforce development and advanced cyber training technologies. Thank you for joining us. Great. Next, we have Kimberly Mentzell, like pencil, right? Kimberly brings 20 plus years of cybersecurity and IT experience, advancing workforce development and cyber education through partnerships with K-12 schools, colleges, and programs supporting women in cyber and emerging tech. As the current Director of Cybersecurity and lead for emerging technologies at the Maryland Department of Commerce, she leads statewide initiatives to strengthen the cyber ecosystem, promote alignment between education and workforce, and drive innovation in AI and quantum technologies. Thank you, Kimberly, for joining. And last but not least, we have Dr. Melissa Dark. Dr. Melissa Dark is a national leader in cybersecurity curriculum design with deep expertise in integrating cyber literacy across K-12, especially in non-technical subjects. She is a former Purdue professor and associate dean and now heads Dark Enterprises, a nonprofit dedicated to building effective, research-driven cybersecurity education models. Welcome, Melissa. I do want to say each of their bios are extremely long. They're very accomplished, to say the least. So if there's anything else that I missed, please feel free to, mention it as you go ahead and answer our questions today. But we're truly so lucky to have you all join us. Alrighty, so as we start this panel, I wanted to level set here and feel free at any time to grab the mic and speak, but why cybersecurity, right? Why should every educator, no matter the subject at all, care about teaching cybersecurity in 2025?
Okay, I will start since I have the mic. Okay, all right. All right, so the reason why every educator should care about cybersecurity is that it's no longer just an IT topic. It is infused in every career and everything that we do. So it's very important that educators, one, understand cybersecurity, so then therefore they can teach their students so they can be well digital citizens.
So I'll add to that, but I do first off just want to say that it is an honor to be here with you all as educators, because you all are truly the front line for defense. And I think, I come from a family of educators, and, we don't thank you all enough. So thank you all for everything that you do with our young people, because that truly is what cybersecurity is about, is educating in the next generation of cyber citizens. So, to echo the point about this not just being a tech issue, every student in your classrooms is living a digital life, whether they realize it or not. And so that continuing education and looking at how we can strengthen our cybersecurity posture, I think it starts with you all. So just wanted to thank you all for being here, and thank you all for everything that you do every day.
I'll just jump in here. I think one of the most exciting thing, like we said, about we're living in a digital world, right? But the exciting thing is that we actually do not know where the future is going. So if anyone can tell you what they can predict of the future, the jobs of the future, the roles of the future, how education can change, what the kids would do, right? We don't know what the direction is. So the best case for us to actually arm or empower our kids is to make sure to learn those foundational skills, right? Just like how we have 3 R's, which is reading, writing, arithmetic. I think we should have 4 R's, which is cyber skills. There's an R in there. So I think if they have those foundational cyber skills, no matter what the future unfolds, how it unfolds, the type of jobs, the type of new technology, it's AI today, it could be quantum a decade from now. We want our children to be embedded with those skills.
All right. So I also want to say I have experience, obviously, teaching in cybersecurity education as well. And so one of the things I want to echo is that cybersecurity was considered really non-existent about years ago, 20 years ago, let's talk, maybe 15. And people called it information assurance. And people didn't understand what it meant, and they didn't understand its implication, its impact in their daily lives. And now, of course, we can't think about a day going by without having security impact us some way. You can see it in the news, you can see it everywhere. And so, and it can be at the global level, regional level, national level, local level, it doesn't matter. Even in our own school systems, even with our own children. So when we talk about embedding cybersecurity skills into the curriculum, we're not talking about teaching a first grader about how to red team, okay? Or how to combat, ABT actors. Although there are probably some of them right now that could probably do it because they are smart. And it's amazing. And I'm so glad that we're raising those types of students and those types of children in this environment. However, you as educators and all of us up here, we firmly believe that embedding those cyber skills, whether it start off with just cyber hygiene and then as it moves forward, those are the important skills that we want to make sure that we impart upon our students. It doesn't even have to be a specific unit or class, although those are very helpful, I think. And I have several cybersecurity educators that are looking at me like, yeah, they're important. They are. Contextually, they're great. But just using them, applying them every day, having that built up, normalizing cybersecurity in your everyday lives is extremely important. And you as educators and parents are the key to that. And I'm also going to say to Seeyew, who I know very well, that cybersecurity is not nascent. It is not 10 years away. It is right here. He knew I was going to say something to him. We worked together at the state of Maryland. So, but actually, to his point, with AI and quantum, those are things that we think of as emerging technologies, but we don't know where that's going to go in the future as well. But I guarantee you, they're going to be part of our students' lives, and that's something with cybersecurity, as it was years ago. We're looking at quantum and AI right now in the same manner. So, thank you so much. Obviously, to echo his point that for everything that you do.
I think the only thing that I would add that hasn't been mentioned so far, I agree with everything that's been talked about. I just came back from a conference in Tampa where I learned that cybercrime is the third largest economy in the world today. And so I think that it brings sort of a new perspective on why all of us need to care about cybersecurity. And to underscore what Siraj, right, said, you are the front line. Right. And if we're concerned about national security and if we're concerned about economic security, then we need to be sure that we're doing a good job in raising the next generation that will be the future of our economic and our national security.
Thank you all. Right. And thinking about access, right? Because cybersecurity education doesn't just happen, and there may be a lot of hurdles to getting there for certain communities, certain schools. So, how do we make sure cybersecurity education reaches all students, not just ones that are in those well-resourced communities or schools?
I will start. We need some policy changes. We need some significant investment. Today, cybersecurity is in about 4,200 schools in the United States. It's about 15% of US high schools. I know this because I did the research. And what is in those 4,200 schools is a wide gamut. In some cases, it would be something that's very basic and rudimentary. Some of you might almost think of it as digital hygiene or cyber safety. And in other cases, it's fairly sophisticated, in preparing a student really to go right into the workforce to earn a certification or to possibly go into college and maybe even with dual credit. But the amount and the depth of cybersecurity in US high schools is still really fragile and very nascent. So I think that first and foremost, Kennedy, I would say we just need more of it. The second thing that I will tell you is that the schools that have the most amount of it are suburban schools, which tend to be wealthier. And so I think that along with our investment and our policy changes, we need to prioritize what you asked, which is the emphasis of bringing it to students in under-resourced schools, whether those are urban schools or rural schools. We need to make that a priority. And I think that hopefully there are people in this room today who care about those policy changes and that type of an investment.
Yes, please.
I'll just add, my world is all about national security and defense. When we look at China, whose their population's about 4 times larger than the U.S., when you look at their investment in their students in STEM, it's about 8 times larger. And so when I think about national security and cyber defense and the pipeline of talent that we need to continue to protect our interests in this country, we have to also make that investment in our youth and in the continued development of cyber talent. Cyber talent's everywhere, and so if we only look at our wealthy schools and tech academies, we're building an inequality in our cyber defense. And so, what's the solution? I think the solution are programs like this with the National Cryptologic Foundation. It's greater partnerships with industry, and we're absolutely excited to continue in that partnership. Because as I stated, it aligns right back to our cyber defense and our national security posture.
And I'll just add that, as stated earlier, not every high school or every school can have a standalone cyber course. So it possibly could be integrated into other curriculums like language arts, mathematics, science, social studies, even art. And some of the things that students could do, like in language arts, for instance, they can look at phishing emails and kind of analyze that. Art, they can create posters or some type of digital, you know, artifact that explains cyber hygiene. So there's ways that we can also, that cyber can be taught where it's not just a standalone course, just integrated into other areas that already exist. That way we're not creating something new.
And I'm one of those people that, so thinking about policy changes here, right? Like for those who don't know, I run Cyber Maryland now, and we have some resources that we're thinking about deploying to actually change and, making sure that more children and kids have access to some of the cybersecurity curriculum. But I'm also learning, as I've learned in the last few years, that changing a curriculum is really tough, right? Educators are busy. You already are doing a lot. So I don't know what the solution is, right? But I do know what needs to happen is that things have to be fun for the students, right? When I think about a lot of the competitions that we see around the world, they're usually very, I don't mean in a negative way, they're very nerdy and geeky. So it's not quite, available for a lot of people, right? When I think about a competition that I would like to do when I was a kid, would be like, I want to see explosions, I want to see drones, I want to see all these different things, right? So how do we actually connect with the kids and make sure that they can kind of learn those skills with things they have access to, right? So those are the areas that I'm looking at. So this is more like an invitation to all of you to kind of reach out to me if you have any ideas. I am looking into deploying some of the resources to make sure that more kids have access to some of these education. But I also understand the constraints that educators and school districts have. So let me know what I can do so that we can kind of figure out a path forward for all of us.
And I'll just round this out real quick by saying that I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the Technology Advancement Center. I'm honored to be on their board here and to be part of this wonderful ecosystem that they have here. And one of the things that they do is they offer Cyber Saturdays. They offer educational things to help boost students and give them access and opportunities to see what's possible in the cybersecurity world. So we're talking about operational technology, things that most people don't usually think about when in terms of cybersecurity. So I just wanted to put that out there for educators. I know myself, when I was educating at the high school level and even college level, I thought it was fascinating for kids to be immersed. They need to see what's possible. They need to see those opportunities. If they don't know what's out there, then all this just becomes noise to them. And trust me, I understand. I have my own kids, and I have brought them here on Saturdays. And my son is now doing things that we won't talk about because I like my job. But the point of the matter is, though, that he got excited and motivated and saw that there was a place for him and that those skills are valuable. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of some of the programs and the benefits here in town at the TAC.
I just want to respond to that because it's like, I think the spark is really important, right? Like sparking that interest, right? That's why I feel like, hacking cars or hacking like a door lock and that kind of stuff, those things can actually be fun for learners and students of, different ages, depending on the appropriateness, right? So I guess I just want to kind of acknowledge that because I feel like a lot of the sparks doesn't have to be like, here's a cybersecurity course.
No, please.
I just wanted to build because I was listening to the conversation and the good point about integrating cybersecurity into other disciplines during the school day. And then Kim mentioned the Technology Advancement Center. I think that out-of-school programs do hold a lot of promise for students. I think there are many opportunities and ways to bring meaningful out-of-school programs to students in under-resourced areas. The only thing that I would like to point out is that we did have a large out-of-school program called Gen Cyber, which recently had its funding cut. And so I just wanted to return to the fact that I do think we need to revisit our investment in cybersecurity, whether it's in the school day, whether it's a dedicated cybersecurity class, in integrated across disciplines during the school day or out of school time programs.
And you're right, policy and funding drive all of what schools can do, right? So this question I do want to direct to Kimberly with, Maryland Department of Commerce, as well as Seeyew with Cyber Maryland. What levers do you think state or federal governments can pull that would make the biggest difference in scaling cybersecurity education?
Seeyew, you know what? I think this is an excellent question for you. Did you like I lobbed that over the fence to him? He's with Department of Labor, so I think he makes an excellent
Look,
individual.
again, this is partnerships, right? I feel like the Department of Labor. So the truth is, Cyber Maryland is funded at $3 million for this fiscal year. That's a lot of money for me as a single person, but that's not a lot of money to actually make systemic change, right? So I think we need to first acknowledge that fact. But at the same time, I also concede that whatever that we invest in also show our value and show like a general direction where we want to go, right? So a couple weeks ago, we released a grant solicitation for $1 million for a cyber and AI clinic because we wanted students to be able to not just learn things in classroom, but also practice and use it in real life, right? So the goal of a clinic, for those who are not familiar, is that just like a legal aid clinic in which folks without resources can get legal help, cyber and AI clinic are for institutions without a lot of resources to be able to get cybersecurity help from students who are starting their careers, right? So that's our value, right? While we wanted more real world hands-on learning, we wanted more opportunities for learners to gain experience that would make them really attractive candidates for the future, right? So we are looking for ways to do more for K-12. It is in the statute, so we will do something. But again, it will, we can only go so far with state or government dollars. We need to leverage existing resources that we already have. We need to be creative in finding new partners who may not be doing this work right now or in the way that we want them to do it with us, right? So that's why conversations like this make sense, because if we want to do an out of school, program, how do we leverage existing resources? If we're going to do some program in the school during school, what kind of resources can we leverage so that every dollar goes a little further, so that we don't have to keep making that type of investments without seeing the result that we want to see. So yes, we want to make an investment. Again, I'm thinking a lot about how we can leverage these dollars to kind of go further for all of us, and we'll love to see more partners and more creative ideas.
And just in the same vein, Seeyew, to support exactly what he was talking about, the Cyber Maryland had convened a group of individuals about 2 months ago, I think it was at that point. And it was actually very interesting because it was a number of companies in addition to state government academics all together. And we were trying to find out what skills that were necessary for our students today to get jobs. And of course, we know those skills are going to change. They're going to morph, just like we're preparing them for jobs that we don't know what they're actually going to be in the future. But the important thing was, and I'm speaking, I'm going to put on the Maryland Department of Commerce hat, we're looking at our companies too, because it depends on the private sector as well as the public sector, that joint relationship to ensure that they are providing opportunities for students. That's why internships and apprenticeships are so valuable for our students, because we want them to have that authentic experience. And I have to tell you, that was one of the main things I think that came out of that conversation that we had about 2 months ago is, hey, we have these students, they come out, conceptually they know what's going on, but we really are looking for that experience. How do we do that? Well, that's the relationship that I can say that I feel confidently that we're working to build between that workforce and that companies and those companies. It's a yin and yang. You need one to have the other, and you need to have a constant refresher for each one. So we're pulling in companies, we're talking to companies, we're trying to pull them into the conversation in addition to building the workforce. So.
No, that's a great point, right? Connecting with the private sector, how it can certainly help to promote progress. So this question for Siraaj and Quiana, right? You're an example of that, of industry and education coming together here. How can industry better partner with K through 12 as well as higher ed to make sure that the students' learning is matching what we're seeing, right? The fast changing cyber landscape.
I think as mentioned, as was mentioned earlier, providing internships, but not just for students, maybe some externships for teachers. So teachers can actually see what actually happens in the workforce. So that way they can take that information back to their students. And then with teachers, also having that professional development, and maybe having it where you bring in higher ed faculty and bring in the industry partners as well too, and have them all work together to maybe do like some type of project or just have some type of real world experience for the teachers to do, because then they will feel comfortable with the curriculum and with the content, and they can take it back to the students and do more in-depth, advanced type of work with the students, and not just the basics, like just cyber hygiene, like passwords, but some more in-depth type of concepts.
Sounds like they need to come to the Ed Summit.
Well, and I'll just add that often when we think about cyber, we immediately go to the tech, and it's cybersecurity is more than just the technology. And so, when I look at the type of leaders that we're hiring today, we're looking for folks that can problem solve and have an imagination and have creativity. The best analysts in my field have the ability to anticipate human behavior. Yeah, it's got nothing to do with the tech. It's that having that ability to be creative, and to look at any sort of problem and imagine what a solution could be. And so, when you think about your roles as educators, it applies across every discipline. And so, on the employer side, in my world, again, in national security and cyber defense and the workforce, I'm not just looking for those tech subject matter experts, but I'm looking for individuals that have that creativity and that can help us, problem solve and create solutions for the future.
Many of the analysts that I run into who are really, really good are actually musicians. They're creative people, they recognize patterns, right? And then it's not obvious that they can get it wasn't obvious before that, career in cybersecurity, but what you said about like some of the problem solvers, creativity, anticipate human behavior. Like I ran into multiple musicians who were really good cyber intelligence analysts, actually.
Staying on that topic of hiring, how do we balance the urgent need for a cybersecurity workforce, right, while ensuring that access to these pathways is equitable, especially for rural and underserved schools? It's a tough one.
I'll just jump in here. It's a panel should really help out. Uh, look, I if you asked me this question a year ago, I feel like, hey, I'm gonna, I would have told you like, hey, we need more internship, we need more apprenticeship and whatnot. But in the past few months, ever since I started this new role, I've look at the data. I have to say, a lot of the positions that are open right now in cybersecurity are jobs in the mid level. Requires 5 to 7 years of experience. So essentially, and I suspect we will see this in other jobs as well, but cybersecurity is like the canary in the coal mine, right? Is that the workforce structure has shifted from being a pyramid in which there's like a lot of pathways in the bottom to a diamond in which most of the demands are actually in the middle. And our job today is to make sure that we can get more people to that middle level. There are a lot of folks who graduate with like a degree in cybersecurity or IT and whatnot. They're having a really, really hard time trying to get into the position. That's a fact. We're exploring ideas. I'm thinking about things like, can we do like a residency program, for example, just like a doctor do a residency program 4 years, right? Should we, there are kids who did a couple apprenticeships internships, and they still couldn't really land a job right now because they are looking for people with 5 years of experience. That's the entry level right now. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer, but I do know that like a strong and tight partnership between educators, the system, the training provider, the state can help out a little bit, but really it has to be a partnership between the employers as well as the training providers and the educators. We can kind of grease the wheel a little bit, but really those pathways have to be opened up, driven by business needs.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. that point that it's a we solution, us. I think together, collaboratively, we come up with ideas on how to improve in those areas. You know, the first things that sort of come to my mind again when I think back to what we need in the industry. We need to continue building a pipeline of talent that are in that cyber field. And again, I think that starts with you all. Bring us into your classroom. I participate on many boards. I'm really passionate about working with young people and serving as a mentor. And one of the quotes that we use for one of the nonprofits that I sit with is they will be what they see. And more young people, especially in those areas that I think are underserved, they need to see people that look like them. Young girls need to see women that are in cyber, folks that come from, underserved communities need to see people from their community that look like them. And then it becomes a career that's obtainable to them that, hey, I could see myself in that career. I could see myself doing something in that discipline because it becomes real. And so I think that's where it starts. And again, you all have the power to do that. And I think these type of partnerships with NCF provides us a platform to be able to connect with you all, I think begins to start to, roll that tide toward, making that change. So.
Of course, I have to put in my 2 cents here too, but actually everything that everybody said here was really interesting, but also I think it's really interesting to have students reach out to local organizations in the community. For instance, there's a Cybersecurity Association, which actually I'm on that board too, but that's neither here nor there, but I know. But the cool thing is they have a student membership. So that's what I'm trying to get to, is that it's really important for them to explore these different opportunities, but they can be part of these organizations. They probably have organizations on campus, organizations at school, do Cyber Patriot. Well, I'm sorry to hear about Gen Cyber. That really makes me sad, but I did. I was like, we did that. And Dr. Palin's over there. Oh, did she leave? Watch me call her out and she's gone. Of course she went to the bathroom because I was mentioning her, just let her know I was thinking about it. Anyway, so the point of the matter is there are ways for students to go out currently, and they don't have to be, PhD students or higher master's degree students or whatever, even in college. Let them go out. I see a number of students that come to, say, Cybersecurity Association, was formerly CAMI. They come to these networking events, and it's not events that necessarily they'll have an opportunity to meet with different companies, different organizations, state, local, sometimes even federal individuals. So it's really interesting for them to be part of it. There's also the Maryland Technology Council, MTC. They have events as well. So I'm just encouraging you and your students to take part in those, because that can be a convening organization to possibly have an avenue and have that opportunity in cyber.
Something Seeyew said made me think about this. I recently went to some training on cybersecurity with industrial control systems. And I used to be at Purdue University, and over the years, I've watched the establishment of dedicated cybersecurity programs. And when Seeyew was talking about people not being able to get entry-level jobs or fewer entry-level jobs, and he was talking about residencies, it started me thinking about, how do you distinguish yourself, right? How does any college or university or community college, how do you prepare pathways for students that help them stand out and distinguish themselves? And it just feels to me like we might be entering a time where cybersecurity needs to be partnered more closely with other disciplines, process engineering, other expertise, right? As we're talking about cybersecurity becoming more paramount and more important to all of us, but it's not in a generic way. As cybersecurity becomes more paramount to manufacturing or to farming, then you need the expertise that is tied to that discipline.
Yeah, I think that's a thing that is like, when I'm thinking about high school kids getting their first part-time job, and they're working in an ice cream store or working in manufacturing or whatever. I haven't quite figured out how to kind of operationalize this. Wouldn't it be great if they actually also do the cybersecurity work for that small business? Wouldn't it be great instead of like, not saying that's a bad job to be working in a grocery store, but it would be nice if, yeah, I work for Giant or Safeway, but on the cyber side, right? As a part-time person, because it's cybersecurity in retail, right? Or in a small business or instead of thinking about a nonprofit, which we would like, we want people to be big brother, big sister, or mentor, but there's also an angle to help with the cybersecurity of that organization, right? For some reason, that just hasn't quite connected yet, and I don't think it's the state's role to figure that out. I feel like it has to be more organic.
Okay.
I don't know how to get that done. If folks have any ideas, maybe that's a way to do it. But it would be great if kids can start like what she was saying earlier, integrating the role of cybersecurity more tightly to all this other work.
Right. No, I completely agree. And one of the things we always talk about when I talk to different companies and organizations is that cyber is not just some siloed piece of your, or an optional piece to your company or organization. It is just as important as HR, marketing, finance, accounting, even your CEO's role, whoever that is part of your company. And if you don't have that, then you might as well just throw out your accounting system. It's the same thing. It is now an integral part of every company and organization. So having said that, if you relay that to students and students see that impact within the life science companies and manufacturing and agriculture and healthcare and all these other ones, they're going to understand there's a role for them across every single sector, guaranteed.
I know I talk a lot because I'm really excited about this.
Me too. That's sorry, you can't put us together in a room.
Yesterday I was visiting a community college, and then one of the things that I realized was like, hey, we have all these students learning cybersecurity. Are they helping in the defense of the school? And then as it turns out, they were not.
Like my son, he was
right. And then I just feel like that's even the people who there's no fault in anybody. I'm just saying it's like I have to constantly remind myself that there is that angle there, right? Like we're teaching all these kids in a community college, doing all the cyber ranges. But wait a minute, schools are under attack all the time, right? Scanning the threats coming in all the time. So they're targeting students, they're targeting educators, perhaps, even internally, right? Educators, your schools. Like I wonder if there's a role for some of these super smart high school kids to actually even help the district out a little bit as a way to actually both increase the resilience of the school, but also put some of the stuff that you're learning in the classroom into practice.
And I'm just picking on that. So
I know.
okay. Yeah, I think that's a really great idea because that way it gives the students some experience too. And then it gives them some autonomy because they're actually working on their school system and they kind of feel important. And that's something I did with, I used to teach web design a long time ago and to middle school students. And I was a webmaster for the school website. And so I had the students actually work on the website with me and they love that and they learned so much. So by just doing, so we just give them a chance. So I think that's a great idea. I think we should try to.
I think we're going to
do something. Yeah.
We're going to make a lot of IT directors.
Here, no problem. All sectors, that's what we need, Seeyew.
No, I think that's a great point. And as someone who works in the industrial sector with, automotive clients, I had to learn how connected vehicles worked right before I could secure them. So that's something in practice that I discovered right away. Great point, Melissa. Thanks for tuning in. We hope this conversation sparked your curiosity and got you excited about the world of cybersecurity. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with fellow cyber enthusiasts. Have a question or a topic you'd love us to explore? Connect with us on CyberChat's podcast page and join the conversation. Until next time, stay curious and keep the cyber chats going.